What was once highly respected that is now a complete joke. The History Channel, the Learning Channel, MTV. TLC now, unofficially, stands for Terrible Life Choices, or with a few of their stars, touching little children. TLC is very uncomfortable to watch. It is the modern-day equivalent of a freak show MO. I routinely feel bad for a lot of the people who've been on there, especially kids. Bank managers. They used to have serious power in local communities. Now they have to be glorified customer service reps a lot of the time. I'm in banking and I've never really thought about it that way, but it's so true. I'm on the lending side, but I definitely see branch banking has become horrible. The turnover rate is just as bad as retail, pay rate is the same, and people are treated just as poorly, all while having much more responsibility and compliance stipulations because they're handling money. Blizzard, the video game company. There is no Blizzard anymore. Only Activision wearing Blizzard's corpse as a skin suit. That skin will be 9.95. The food pyramid. True. Found out the Canadian Food Guide was originally created as a rationing plan during WW1. The Canadian Food Guide is actually better than ever before. It was redone, this time without taking any industry funding and based on scientific findings. Still, everybody eats processed food instead anyway. Canada's Food Guide went from saying 6 servings per day of dairy is mandatory, to saying it is completely unnecessary. Staying at a job out of loyalty. More like companies being loyal to employees, providing a good wage, raises, benefits, pensions, etc. Why should employees stay out of loyalty when companies aren't loyal or acting in their best interests? It's a job. The entire idea of loyalty to a job is a joke. My work is pulling this shit right now. Applied for an internal promotion and got a 30-minute meeting telling me to stay in my lane. Apparently the proper etiquette is to let your supervisor decide when you should be promoted and apply for you. Fuck that noise. If you open a position I'm qualified for, I'm applying. Coworker who's been here a year longer and makes less than me asked for a raise and was shut down because it would. Bad for company morale. We're both on our way out. I've applied for 15 new jobs so far this week. Heard back from 5 that rejected me without an interview, but I'll keep applying and make it very clear why I'm leaving on my exit interview. Craftsman Tools. OG Craftsman Tools were something else. After he died a few years ago, I inherited my father's tool collection, most of which he had inherited from my grandfather in the 70s. Those tools are so much better than anything I bought for myself. Superior quality. And if they did break, you could just walk into Sears, show it to them, and they'd give you a replacement, no questions asked. Hand tools / non-wear items, that is, so no power tools, saw blades, etc. The Guinness Book of World Records. Once a well-established and professional collection of every impressive human feat, now a quick ego boost for rich kids that have barely enough talent to balance an egg on their forehead for 15 seconds on a July afternoon at exactly 11:55 a.m. while wearing a Hello Kitty onesie. The Book of Records used to be feats of amazing skill and talent. Now it has records like who can put the most clothespins on their face. All you have to do to beat them is have a bigger face. Bill Bailey. I think it was an episode of Cats Does Countdown where they tried to beat world records between doing the numbers and letters and accomplished at least one. That was with no practice or preparation either. Shortly after that, Lee Mack, another UK comedian, got the world record, since broken, for darts bullseyes in 1 minute. People are going to reflexively deny its initial popularity, but Facebook. It even used its exclusivity as its primary marketing tool during its initial launch only for colleges. There was a period of time when Facebook was the best way for college students to interact with other college students online, which sounds insane now, but was actually true in its early years. Working in the educational system. Being a teacher still sounds worthy of respect, but working as one is a joke. Kids are free to do whatever they want, you're barely allowed to punish bad behavior in any way. School politics stop from changing anything, parents always blame you, etc. I feel so bad for teachers. Their job is one of the most important in our entire society, yet they get paid scraps and saddled with all kinds of bullshit from politicians. Many of mine worked incredibly hard and genuinely loved their jobs, but you could tell they were exhausted. And the schools I went to were damn good as far as public schools go, and they still struggled with funding. I can't even imagine what goes on at the worse-off ones. Or even the same schools currently. My state's governor has been cutting education funding like no tomorrow. Wells Fargo. Modern Wells Fargo is not the same as stagecoach driving, Wild West Wells Fargo. Norwest Bank acquired real Wells Fargo in the late 90s, but kept the Wells Fargo name as it had better brand recognition. All of the recent scandals have occurred since the takeover, in the bank formerly known as Norwest. I worked for WF for a time, and all the Norwest holdovers would get a far-off look in their eyes when telling us how much better things were before the acquisition. Even the higher-ups that would sacrifice their firstborn at the altar of capitalism would reminisce about how awesome it was before it became such a corporate pigsty. Good times. Honestly, I feel like in the past 6 years, especially in the past 2 to 3 years since the pandemic, people as a whole of all backgrounds, ethnicities, political views, etc., have had a massive decline in trust and faith in many societal institutions and perceived people of power and prestige, as well as each other as human beings. This is a major part of what's leading to our world seeming so much more fractured and unstable, and I think it's only going to get worse. In antiquity, the collapse of institutions and confidence in politics went along with the switch from republic to empire. People who lived in the time of Augustus did not even realize it at the time they still were citizens of the Roman Republic, SBQR, the Senate and people of Rome. It took a while for them to realize things had changed. I fear the same is upon us, and in thousands of years, when they read the decline and fall of the American Empire, they will read of the early 21st century the same way we read of the early 1st century. At that point, democracy was already gone, but few realized it. Netflix originals. Honestly, House of Cards showed they could challenge HBO for level of quality. Now they have a reputation for buying good scripts and pulling the plug before the shows get too expensive. Landline telephones. The house phone used to be a vital link to the outside world. It's how you talk to friends and family far away, interact with businesses, call for help in an emergency, etc. But once junk calls were allowed to spiral completely out of control, the phone became a nuisance. As someone I saw said a while back, a Gen Z person would sooner jump on a live grenade than accept an incoming call from an unknown number, and that's in the context of mobile phones, which don't get nearly as much spam. Wired phones are almost completely useless today. The U.S. Postal Service. A decades-long campaign to smear their reputation coupled with legislation designed to cripple the service has turned them from the reason Santa Claus isn't institutionalized in Miracle and 34th Street to a comedian's punching bag. And yeah, last time I went to the post office the service was terribly slow, but they had one window open in a building with 5 windows. Seemed kind of understaffed. Starve the beast. Strategy showing itself to be effective yet again. Take an effective public service, reduce funding so the service suffers, argue how the public service is ineffective, replace with private enterprise, raise prices, and profit at the cost of everyone else.